Welcome back to Watch More Football. We're on episode 20 this week, and if you can, you're watching us on the Genreverse Sports YouTube channel, so give us a like and subscribe if possible. It would help us out a lot on there. While you're on there, please also check out our main Genreverse channel, which has got loads of entertainment news, anime, movies, geek stuff, reactions, all that sort of stuff is on there. And you'll find similar content to that on lrmonline.com in written format. And that was where you'll also find myself. I'm one of the senior editors over at lrmonline.com. My name is Cam Clark. I'm joined, as always, by Ryan and Dave. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Evening.
No Mick this week because he has a sort of family thing, so the boys don't sound too up for it this week. So we'll see how that goes. I can kind of get that. I guess I'm slightly the happier one of the three of us at this point.
It could have been
my
so
team did
different.
get a result.
I mean, are you happy?
So different.
Are you happy or are you relieved? Because I don't know that was a happy experience that game.
I mean, we saw him go through emotions.
He went through the absolute rainbow,
I think
didn't
you even said, "Fuck this shit, I'm off out."
Yeah,
and
no, turn the game.
You must have come back to it at some point. Yeah,
I did. So what happened is, I'll explain what happened here before we get into kind of predictions and stuff like that. Is Newcastle were in a very dramatic game at the weekend, which they won 4-3. But at one point, we were getting beat 3-1. All our players had went off injured, and it was an absolute disaster zone. I went up the stairs, took off my Newcastle top, threw it down on the floor for a wash, went and put a different top
just
on,
getting the lighter fluid out onto it just as the penalty got called.
Yeah, just put some music on. I was like, I'm not even switching this back on. And I looked at my phone and Mick says, I think we're getting a penalty here. I was like, right, okay. I'll just put it back on and see if we score this penalty, because you never know after that. So that's 3-2. Put it back on, we scored the penalty, and of course then went on to watch it, and we've come back and won the game 4-3. And when the fourth goal went in, my wife actually said, I'll not tell you exactly what she said actually, but she wasn't that impressed with how much noise I was making, shall we say.
Can't be having a happy husband.
That goal came on. I know. So anyway, but before we kind of get on and talk about that,
can we just before we do?
Yeah.
Before we do, I think we need to mark that this is the first instance of the commentator's curse working in Cam's favour. Because he wrote the entire fucking thing off, and then it...
True.
I think we just need to take a moment to reflect on that.
Or maybe he just needed to wash his Newcastle shit.
Maybe I just needed to. It's been bad luck before the Newcastle top, so I just think that's it. It doesn't get worn anymore for the rest of this season. I might wear it on WMF as long as we're not playing on a Monday night when we record.
We're not going to record when Newcastle are playing anyway, are we?
We wouldn't. No, we wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. But yeah, I don't think I'll be wearing it during any games going forward. But before we'll talk about that game in a bit more detail, because Ryan certainly has a few thieves about that game. I think that's understandable. But before we do that, we'll just talk a little bit about predictions from last time that we made. Kyle has an image that he will bring up at the moment, and then he will, as always, our lovely producer Kyle will then show the actual results as they happened. In terms of the scoreboards, I got 7, Dave got 6, Mick got 5, and Ryan only got 3. Somehow, again, I don't know how he does it.
It was a really unpredictable and wild and twisty-turny weekend in the Premier League, and that's why we love it so much.
It kind of was. Yeah, the rest of us did really well.
Yeah, it's just how it goes. So, Dave, you're still winning in 69 points. I'm in 68, Mick's 67, and Ryan's in 58.
Nice, by the way. Nice.
So that's where we go.
Cheers, Kyle.
Yeah.
Intentional. Yeah. Mick's getting his points, is he?
Yeah. Sorry, what? Mick? Well, no one raised a motion for him to get any points deducted.
I didn't think we had to at this stage. I thought it was just given. Well, it was like last minute notice as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Why don't we ask the viewers to let us know how many points Mick should be deducted from last week. So he did get 6. No, he got 5. So any viewers 10 on this episode, Rich, you can join in. Let us know how many points Mick should get deducted for not turning up this week due to having some family dinner. They had to attend.
I mean, I missed out on a family event to be here tonight, so
it would have been quite the
we're
event.
looking at it. That's definitely one way of looking at it. But
something would have risen
you've
today.
still got time, Ryan. You've still got time. You've still got time. But yeah, we'll move on and we'll go back to talking a little bit about the West Ham and the Newcastle game. It was quite a big game because the two teams are kind of sitting right next to each other in the league, so it was a bit of a 6-pointer. I'm very happy it went the way it did, but certainly there was a lot of problems from Newcastle's point of view, and there was also a bit of controversy as well because 2 of Newcastle's goals came from penalties. Ryan, I'll hand it over to you at this point.
I can see why the first penalty was given because it, just the way the game is at the minute. Obviously, Kufal got to the ball, second to Gordon. But I think, especially sort of if you compare it to a few other incidents just over the weekend, I think the idea of what a foul is has just been massively skewed in recent years. Like a foul should be for foul play, for cheating, for doing something unfairly or trying to get an unfair advantage or doing something that's going to put someone in danger. The first penalty, it was a loose ball, it was an open ball, nobody had it. Soufal goes in and he's got to get it spot on, win the ball, and then he's still got to deal with it after that. So he's got quite a low margin for error and he's still got work to do after that. All Gordon has to do in that situation, he came at it exactly the same time. He doesn't even need to win the ball, he just needs to get in the way of Soufal and he gets a penalty from an absolute nothing bit of field position. Because he was never going to get to the ball. He never even tried to get to the ball. When he did get to the ball, he was never going to do anything with it. And yet you get a sort of, I think it's like 86% likelihood of scoring if you get a penalty for that, just because Soufal's half a second slower. But
that's the double jeopardy of defending, though, isn't it? Because they do quite often. They get the lion's share of, you get to be a bit heavier if you're a defender. You get to be a bit more physical with the attackers and stuff like that. But at the same time, if the attacker uses the brain to get in front of a ball and a defender's clumsy enough to make a challenge, I just
don't think
the attacker falls over. It's kind of always
I just don't think
that an attacker can use as part of the arsenal.
I mean, Soufal can't not go for the ball, which is the problem. So there's not an error in judgment in him going for it. B, there's nothing really wrong with what he did. There was nothing wrong with his execution. There was nothing wrong with the timing. There was nothing wrong with where he was aiming. It just so happened that while he's
Gordon's doing though.
Yeah, it just so happens that while it's a 50-50 challenge, and if you don't come out on top of the 50-50, you've not got the ball. So that's sort of penalty enough for not doing your job right. You don't have to, it shouldn't have to be a foul just because you haven't won a 50-50 challenge. If Gordon was stood on the ball and Soufal had cleaned him out, fine. But they're both doing the right thing.
With Gordon on the floor, and
because they're both diving in for the ball. Soufal was on the floor as well.
The ball. So if the referee goes, well, it went that way, then Soufal just
play on.
Goes, Gordon's on the floor. I'm going to walk past them and kick the ball away. Gordon's
what's wrong with
the ground going? Wait a minute, I've been kicked in the heel.
Okay, fine, but if it was play on and everyone knew that situation was play on, Gordon wouldn't be rolling around on the floor. He'd be trying to win it back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, but that's a bigger issue. You're talking about instituting something into the game, whereas that when people feel contact in the box that they don't go over. I think we'd need to start at grassroots level now with the 5-year-olds to get them to that point.
I just think the way the laws and the way the interpretation of what a foul is at the minute, it's a bit like rugby union where you get a penalty every 5 seconds because not doing your job properly is deemed to be a foul. Whereas not doing your job properly should just mean the other team gets the upper hand.
Right. See, I'm going to argue
I just don't think there's anything.
There's
nothing dirty about what Soufal did. He just didn't get to the ball in time.
30 doesn't mean foul. This is where I disagree with you. And I don't know whether it's maybe I've played a bit more football than you over the years or something like that, and I don't want to use that as a kind of excuse because I hear it when people do say things like that. But you would be annoyed if somebody makes a mistake and fouls you because they made a mistake just as much as whether they're trying to do anything wrong to you or they're being dirty. Most of the time, actually, when you get to amateur level, most of the fouls happen because somebody's trying to do the right thing, but their non-professional legs go in strange directions. They don't land where they're supposed to be, and it ends up they're 10 minutes too late to a challenge. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean that. And meanwhile, the guy gets home the next day with a leg, you know.
But what was the mistake that Soufal made there? He didn't get there quick enough.
Sometimes a defender has to learn not to put the challenge in, to actually let the attacker get it, even though you don't want them to get it, because you're still in a position where you're protecting them, and you're protecting the space rather than going for the ball. Anytime as a defender you decide to, and I'm a defender that likes to do that and go for the ball, but occasionally you go for it and you think, oh, I shouldn't have went for that one. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. I just think it's so weighted towards the attacker in that situation, because the attacker has got so much. He's got so much more leeway for what he can get away with, and the reward for him getting away with that is a penalty.
We don't want goals though, and therefore it should be a bit more weighted.
No, who takes joy in that goal there, where Gordon's just gone in and bought a penalty kick? What joy is
forward play? Some would say
no. There's nothing.
Probably get him in the playing of the Euros, to be honest, Gareth. So get you looking at going, yes.
I mean, it's the sort of
Italy in the final.
That's what it is. Grealish for nowadays.
It is a sort of street smarts that England could use in the tournament. I agree, but it's not good play in my opinion. It's not.
I mean, you did say yourself if Anthony Gordon did that for England in the Euros,
and it's actually
you would all
you go back to
provided.
You go back to the Euros final against Italy when it was 1-1 and it was grinding down. And England kept breaking into the box, and you could see Sancho, Sterling, Rashford, Saka. They were all doing it. They were getting into the box, and they were sticking a leg out looking for a foul. And the Italians were too smart to do it.
Yeah,
and that's why England didn't win.
It's about the Italians are smarter than that, you know, and that's it's that culture in Italy that they don't make the silly mistakes that the referee can easily blow for.
Apart from Chiellini fucking pulling Saka's head off the halfway line, but
you know, I mean,
it was a right choice.
Slightly. I mean, it used to be the Italians were the dirtiest. They would hack and foul everybody, and they wouldn't care.
But then I sort of
to be smart.
So then I go to Liverpool and Brighton yesterday, and my view on sort of like, again, where we've got what's a foul is wrong. So there was before Liverpool equalised, they had a penalty shout where Estupiñán sort of grabs hold of Núñez and tries to bring him down, and Núñez sort of goes down like a sack of spuds, and it was Wade play on because Núñez went down like a sack of spuds. But for me, Estupiñán's he's still trying to grapple him down just because he's not strong enough to do it, or Núñez has gone down too easily. His intent is still to bring him down rather than challenge for the ball. So that should still be a foul. And then a bit later, you had a Dingra break-in, and McAllister was chasing after him and had nowhere near enough pace for him. So he tries to nudge him and shove him out of the way, and he barely got any contact on him, but Dingra went down. But McAllister was called up for a foul and a booking because of he was trying to take out the other player and stop a counter, regardless of whether he was successful or not. And I think that is where we need to focus on fouls. Like, what are they trying to do rather than what the outcome is? Because you go in for a 50-50 challenge where both players are going at the same speed because of what the attacker's got to do versus what the defender's got to do. There's too much riding on it to call based on a coin toss, basically. Is it not a term of who's quicker? So the attacker being that they're not as strong, but by being agile and putting their body in the line should just get there that split. But why should the defender has to go through them? That's part of an attack. Why should you earn a foul just for being quicker? Like, why should you Why should you be in that area of the box where you're on the edge? When you're on the edge of the box,
why should you not be the best defender in the world because they tell you you're not quick enough? You're brilliant. You've been practicing all your days, but you can't become a professional because they just tell you, sorry, son, you're just too slow to play at that level of the game.
I just think it goes from
genetics, training.
It goes from a loose ball.
That's life.
It goes from a loose ball on the end of the box with Gordon running away from the goal that he's trying to attack. Gordon not even trying to win the ball, and then all of a sudden Isaac's got a penalty kick. It just doesn't seem fair.
If he was getting control of the ball.
I don't think it's fair to say Gordon wasn't trying to win the ball. He wasn't.
You could see exactly what he was doing
between himself and the ball, which means
to shield it.
Which means he's not going for the ball.
The ball wasn't
his. The ball wasn't his to shield.
Yeah,
if he'd have got a foot on it, and Soufal came through him, fine. But Gordon put himself between Soufal and the ball, meaning Soufal had nowhere to go. He was already there.
I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree because I think I get what you're saying. I just don't agree with your interpretation of it. I will concede though. You think he's right?
Yeah, he is right. Yeah, but I mean, if you're a attacker, you want it, don't you?
Yeah, but I mean, what position did you play when you played, Dave?
I was a winger. Yeah,
a winger. Right, so you are used to getting hacked down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they meant it. If you get to a ball, you're quicker than the defender. He's a big, slow lump, but you're quick and speedy. You get there first, you get in front of him, and he just thinks, this guy's smaller than me, and goes right through the back of you. And I'm not saying that's what happened here, but when that happens...
Oh, it did happen,
I
was skinny. I went down easy because I was skinny.
Yeah, but that shouldn't necessarily be. But then it's just, whoever's the strongest.
You never get anything called.
It would just be 11 guys that would all be 6'4" and built like tanks, and that's all you would have.
Could be karate kicked in those leagues, and nothing would be
Lionel Messi would rip the shit out of every one of those guys and dance through them all and score 1 million goals because he's got more class in his big toe than any of those big lumps. Do you know what I'm saying? Anyway, the second penalty, though, I will concede, Ryan, that I thought that was extremely harsh on West Ham. And
I think it's not
Phillips,
just...
who did have a nightmare game when he came on, don't get me wrong, he probably turned the game in our favour, but I think the penalty was...
I can't really remember anything that he did apart from that incident where he actually did nothing wrong. But I think he let what do you call it, go for the fourth goal. Barnes for his second one, for the fourth goal. He was marking him and he just doesn't move, and Barnes just goes straight past him and shoots, and Phillips is still standing where he was when Barnes went to move. And I think a lot of West Ham fans, let's be honest, they really don't like him. They don't think he's so did you guys
done a job for them at all.
Did you guys see the video of the guy waiting for the team to go back on the bus, and he starts shouting at Phillips, calling him useless, and then Phillips, which
that bad.
No, it wasn't. But Phillips waited until he was already on the bus and behind the windscreen before he.
I just call that smart.
I think he's well within his rights to do that, because
I think he's well within his rights to say that. I mean, the guy's just standing there waiting at the end of the game just to say, "I think you're useless." That's not going to help him to improve next week, is it? It's like going back to the way Everton
Phillips already knows that his career is absolutely down the shitter, because West Ham aren't going to keep him. He's not going to get games for City. He's just going to, he'll pitch up in Turkey.
Somebody will buy him. Somebody will take a chance on him, but City won't get the money that they expect to get for him.
They did want the money back on him as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
They wanted 40 million. Nobody was going to pay for it.
Which was quite frankly a scandal, after getting somebody in for a year and saying, we'll have our money back then.
If there's any justice, it will happen the way that it happens when United buy an average player, and that he'll just sit on the bench for 2 years until the contract runs out, and then
you'll be fed up. Though, because
and they end up paying off another team to take him.
No one might end up matching the wages at this point, because that comes with it as well. If it's not playing that well, I mean, somebody like Brentford's going to look up and say, we'd take a punt on him. Well, they're not going to pay that kind of wages, and they're not going to buy the
lower league teams where the lower down teams where players like that would normally go, they can't afford to buy an older player who can do a job for them, because they've got to buy really young players that they can sell them for a profit.
So that they can, there's no point in them buying a player past a certain point. You're right.
It's like our
I
drink
think
water. Exactly the same as what we had with drink water.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean,
it
it's
is.
you could go through basically every player we've signed since Fergie left, and that's how it's ended. For
Well, I mean, yeah, you guys have been
I
the
can count on
masters
one
of it,
hand
to be
the players.
perfectly honest. But yeah, I mean, it is a kind of, I don't know. Phillips, he needs to resurrect his career, and I think the most likelihood is for City is try and give him another year's loan next year for the full year.
Back to
Hopefully
Leeds.
he plays better, and somebody goes, "Oh yeah, he played well," and we'll get
Leeds
him.
would
That's
probably
their
take him on
only hope
loan,
at this
wouldn't
point,
they?
you know.
Leeds
If
would
they
take him
go
on loan if they go up. Yeah.
Just to go up.
I think
I mean,
he
that
could
might
actually
be a good deal.
he could actually do a job in Italy. I think there's some sort of like mid-table Italian clubs where I think he could possibly, where it's slightly slower
he
over
could
there.
do a job if he just improves his form. Though I know it's how does somebody improve their form? He doesn't look as fit as he should be.
He's not fit, but I think it's the confidence as well. I think where you had so many high-profile incidents as soon as he started, and it was his first game time in like 18 months. I think he's just got into his own head a bit. And then you then have something like
to get round it. He's got to play better, and
then you have something like
you
have something like he comes on with his team in a really comfortable position. He gets really harshly called for a foul when in fact he was the one who should have got the foul. Realistically, and although everyone can be in agreement that should never have been a penalty, it's still his cock up again, isn't it? And that's probably sort of played into his mind for the rest of the game.
Yeah. Last thing,
and I suppose the best players get over that and get past it, but yeah.
I know it's. I mean, who knows what the answer is for that? Some people do and some don't, and you're right. You're absolutely right.
I remember listening to Peter Schmeichel talking about Andre Onana when he was doing all those errors in the Champions League for us at the start of the season, and the interviewer was like, "Well, so Peter, how did you dust yourself off and pick yourself up after you made a mistake like that?" And he's like, "I never made mistakes. I never considered that I'd made a mistake. I just went again." And maybe that's sort of what Phillips needs.
The right attitude.
It's kind of an attitude in terms of his finishing and stuff like that, isn't it? He misses some sitters and he just doesn't seem to care because he knows he'll score again next week. Some players just have that mentality, some don't. And not everybody can do it at a big club, so that you can do it when you're maybe playing for Leeds and it's a work hard team and it's all about the ethic. But then you go to the millionaire club and maybe for some people it's just I've made it, I'm a star. We've seen it a lot of times.
I don't think he started fairly late as well. He broke through and became a big player for Leeds quite late on, didn't he? It's not like he's 22 and still learning the game.
And I think it ultimately had to take the move to City because his financial future depends on it. But he's not going to immediately go, I'll just drop my wages to play football now, because he's not got that long in his career left.
And
so I think Man City will
he's a Leeds lad, and the money that City were offering Leeds is big money for Leeds, and he probably wanted to look after him that way as well, didn't he? Probably. Same way, same way Grealish treated it at Villa. It's like, City are coming in for 100 million. I love playing for Villa, but you look what Villa have been able to do with that 100 million.
Yeah. At some point, everybody's got a decision to make in that way, depending on the age you are and what you want to do in your career. Ultimately, look at Harry Kane. Into Germany for his final last hurrah.
He's going over there and breaking records.
One this year.
Breaking records. Yeah, yes.
Breaking records, but he's not winning any trophies. The last thing I was going to mention at the Newcastle game is just that we had another 3 injuries in that game as well.
Was it 5?
Now I don't. Sorry.
Was it 5?
Well, I don't know. You could say 5. There was 5 people went off, but the only ones that you could say look definitely injured. Jamal Lascelles, which I'll get to. Almiron seemed to come on and then get injured right away. There was something wrong with him. And who else was it? Escapes me now. Tino went off injured as well. Tino Livramento. Kraft kind of come on and went back off again, but I wonder whether that was maybe just tactical because he was having a really poor time when he came on. It wasn't working, and I wonder whether Howe just hooked him for that reason to put, to get Lewis Hall on kind of thing. Once Livramento had went off, I don't know, but for whatever reason he got hooked and he went straight down the tunnel. But the main one is Jamal Lascelles has done his ACL and is now out for 6 to 9 months, which we found out just 2 weeks ago what happened to Newcastle's other central defender, Sven Botman, who's out for 69 months as well. So we literally have one recognised. I know Dan Burn can play centre back, and he did well. I thought Dan Burn did well when he was playing centre back. I prefer him as a centre back, but that's basically our defence now for the rest of the season. We've got Dan Burn and we've got Shah, and if one of the two of them gets injured, we're on Paul Dummett. That we're in a big glass in case of emergency. Paul Dummett has to come on, so that's what we're looking at.
Surely there's a lad in the academy that you can bring in before you bring in Paul Dummett.
Well, there was that Alex Murphy, but he seems to be injured at the moment as well. He wasn't even on the bench against West Ham. So I don't, you don't always hear what's happening with the young guys. That nobody does injury reports on them, but he wasn't there, so it's a bit of a strange one. We'll see if he turns up next game. But yeah, that's my worry for the rest of the season. I think as much as we've got winnable games, we could go on and attain Europe, but you just kind of think at some point it's going to fall apart. There's just going to not be enough people to put on the pitch, and we're going to lose some games. But we'll see what happens. I hope I'm wrong.
I think as well, it's a bit like United then, because we could strive and get Champions League if we really wanted, but we're going to get there and we're not going to be ready for Champions League. We're going to get dumped straight back out again, and we really sort of. I think both United and Newcastle need to take a step back, be a mid-table club, and then properly prepare for getting in Europe so you can actually make a fist of it.
That's exactly what we're doing.
You joke, but I think
the Chelsea.
That's legit what we're doing.
Yeah, it would be painful to see, but I do think a couple of seasons doing what Chelsea are doing is what United need.
I think for you that makes more sense because Europa League doesn't matter to you. I don't think that's the case for us. Europa League or Conference League are viable
we can get
targets for us to win. That could be the biggest trophy we've won since. The last time Newcastle won a trophy was the equivalent of the Europa League now in 1969. So, if we could go on a big run in Europe, I think that'd be massive for us. So I kind of think our situations are different, that Europe would be good for us. Because you don't, again, in the earlier parts of that competition, it's not like playing Champions League where you're playing good teams every Wednesday night. You're sometimes playing absolute rubbish and you can rest a few players and stuff like that as well. So I think you have to appreciate that. But I can kind of see where that might make sense for your point of view. I don't think you are playing well. We'll get to that. We'll go on to talk about you now. I was going to say you're not playing bad enough that I don't see you getting Europa or Conference, because you're already 5 points still ahead of us. You're in that. I don't think you'll catch Spurs or Villa, but it looks like you're set to get Europa League at least. I would have thought.
Yeah, you're 4 points ahead of West Ham with a game in hand at the moment.
You say that, but there's there's 2 games that we've got this week that we could lose.
Monday night, Chelsea and Liverpool.
Don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I would have thought you'd have done well against Brentford at the weekend. You'd been playing a bit better in recent weeks. That was a poor performance.
I think it's weird because it's the stats that came out after the Brentford game was again the high amount of shots that we conceded. And we've been letting in basically 20 shots a game since Christmas.
Yeah, is it in the last 5 games you've had over 100 shots at you? Yeah. Which is ridiculous.
It's been like that since Christmas. Yeah. Even against Newport, we let them have like 15, 16 shots.
Yeah.
What I would say, and what I said sort of the last time we played, is that I do think it's slightly by design in that we've accepted that we haven't really got any midfield presence at all. So we focused on pressing high and we focused on defending really well in the box. None of that happened on Saturday. We weren't pressing. We were really disorganised in the box. There was, and it's been a frustrating theme for United for quite a while. Is you look at a team that have
hit the post as well.
Yeah, it's been a frustrating team. Is that you look at you have United against a team that are really struggling, and yet they're more committed, they're more fired up, rather than United sniffing blood saying we can put 3 or 4 past these. And B, you watch the other team play and everybody knows where everybody else is going to be on the pitch, and every pass and every flick on finds a teammate, and none of that happens for United, and that's the frustrating thing. It's it's really
it does occasionally. Like I thought, a couple of games recently, you've looked as if you had that. Like the passing was a bit slicker, but then
it was
okay, they've found a way to play, and then the next game it's just like they're going back to just
I think we've been playing. It's not necessarily been pleasing on the eye, but it has been sort of fairly coherent since Boxing Day against Villa. We've had a game plan and it's mostly worked. The two games where it hasn't worked were Fulham just after we beat Villa for the second time when the first game of Højlund was injured. We were second best there. There was again none of the sort of fight, none of the flow to the attack. The City game's the City game, but then last night, and I think Højlund sort of came back for Liverpool, didn't do a lot. I think he's still getting back up to speed, and that's a bit worrying if he's going to need a few games to get back up to speed, because we need him to sort of to sort of carry on his form from before he got injured.
Well, you saw Isaac, like it takes him 2 or 3 games after he comes back from an injury before he looks as if he's switched on. Some players are just like that. Some players can just come back from injury in a cup final and score the winner. Not all players can do that. There's a difference between fitness and match fitness, isn't there? For some players. So.
But it's not even like Højlund was rusty. It's just he wasn't being found in the same way. And it's whether he's not making the runs or whether just people weren't used to him being there because of having a few games.
That's what you were like earlier in the season, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I don't understand because he only
really
missed.
Playing a lot of long balls. That's what I noticed. A lot of long, aimless balls. Which felt like.
Well, we're trying to.
Why would you do that against Brentford? Kind of thing.
I mean, we're trying to. We're trying to send it into space for Rashford and Garnacho basically, and Højlund because he's rapid as well. But there was a lot of just sort of clearing it and get rid of it rather than trying to build up. One thing that can change that is that Lisandro Martinez came off the bench, which is good news.
How long's he been out for?
A good bench.
He's been out since February.
Not that long then.
No, but he missed most of the season before then, and he missed the back end of last season.
Come back and he went out again.
He literally had 2 games back, and in those 2 games we looked brilliant, and then he got injured again. But he really changes how we build up from the back, because I think part of it is Onana wants to be able to build up quickly and do that, but nobody offers him anything, so he punts it. Whereas if he's got Martinez who can take the ball, beat the press and play it on, that sort of changes that, especially when you've got Miner who can take the ball off Martinez and do something similar. So that's good, and Mount coming back and actually doing something is good news as well, because he could either play alongside Minu, or if Minu's going to be sort of the further forward out of him and Casemiro, Mount could come in and rotate for him, so there's not as much pressure on Minu either.
Where was he?
I was almost like sick when I saw Mount score that goal. I was sitting watching it and I was thinking to myself, you were getting absolutely battered, and I'm thinking to myself, I know what's happening here. I know what's going to happen here. They're going to get one chance and they're going to score and win this game.
Yeah. And it was the only chance we created.
As soon as I went in, I was like, this is getting in. And in it goes. And I thought, that's it. And then they went up the park and scored right away.
Such a soft goal to concede as well.
But I mean, you really didn't deserve a win, to be fair, and I think you would admit that as well. So,
yeah, I think the plan was when we bought Mount was to be a box to box, and it's sort of what Mainu's been doing anyway since he came in. So if we can have those two rotating off each other, we still need a holding midfielder whose legs haven't gone.
Whether the manager picks him is irrelevant. You'd rather have.
I think Mainu will start, but you know he can take him. Yeah, but he can take him off after an hour if Mount's there to pick him up
or something like that.
Yeah.
So, shall we move on to the dullest game of the weekend? And it absolutely was probably the poorest watch of the weekend, but yet it was the one that was hyped up so much, which was obviously Man City versus Arsenal, the big top of the table clash. And really, it kind of went Liverpool's way, because Liverpool had won nice and, I wouldn't say nice and easy earlier on, but they had got a comfortable enough victory earlier on. And then it was up to which one of these could knock the other one out of the title race, and none of them were prepared. That's what it felt like to me. That no one was willing to just take that extra bit of risk that would have been required to beat the other team. They both just played it too safe for me.
Well, Arsenal seem to be completely different to their first leg, didn't they? Like the last time, they seemed to outplay City, but this time they just let City come at them. And
yeah.
they didn't.
To be fair, they had the better chances. Arsenal had the better chances.
I thought Arsenal
wouldn't
shaded
think
it.
they were any clear-cut ones, though. But
I
I think
didn't
it's a
do
better
much when they
result
did
for
have the
Arsenal
ball.
as well, I think. Because Arsenal's already ahead of City, so the draw suits them better. And I think really City were the ones that had to go out and say, we need to take some risks in this game. And I never felt they ever took any risks. And Pep Guardiola was moaning a bit like, I think somebody said, what do you need to do to get through that? Like Arsenal had parked the bus. You'd have to shoot somebody, was his answer if you want to get through that. Well, or you could have committed more people to attack. You could have played two straight. I mean, there's a million things that you could have did, but he wasn't prepared to do that because he didn't want to lose one the other way as well and end up losing the game and put himself at the title race. So
yeah, I thought. I mean, I watched it while I was sort of, cooking and eating dinner. But whenever I glanced back at the screen, it was always Arsenal attacking. I thought. But it was just, I think the defences were both really good and they cancelled each other out.
I think Arsenal only had like 30% of the ball for the entire game.
Yeah, but City having possession doesn't mean they're attacking.
No, it doesn't. You
have to accept that because they will rotate that around a bit in no dangerous areas whatsoever, just to keep the ball. And sometimes they don't even make teams work hard when they're off the ball because the team just sits back and says,
it's about making the other team sort of lose concentration rather than knocking them out. If that
you've got to be pulling them out or a different position.
Arsenal didn't lose the concentration because
defensively,
they're the only team as good as City off the ball, aren't they? So
I think City have a pretty iffy record against the top six as well this season.
Yeah, they've not done well.
That's another thing about City this season.
What about Roy Keane's comments? Did you see them? Did any see the comments Roy Keane made after the game? No.
What about Haaland?
About Haaland? Yeah.
I think that's just Roy Keane being Roy Keane.
Yeah, he's...
but I think he's got a point. I usually do with Roy, though. I quite find myself thinking the same as Roy quite a lot of the time. I guess it's that old school thing. But, I think he's got a point in what he says that there are parts of Haaland's game that to be at the very top level, he has to improve. He won't always be in a team that will just put chances on a platter for him. That won't always happen. He won't always be in games like that. And in those games, he does need to be able to offer more.
He's in the team to put away the half chance. There's enough players that City have got in the build-up. If he was to go back and try it, he'd just be getting in the way and then there wouldn't be a focal point. The issue is Arsenal weren't giving up any half chances for him, so he's sort of nullified there. Yeah. And he can't do anything else to improve. But that doesn't mean that he needs to change his game.
His style in some ways, like you could whenever Arsenal were attacking and you get the ball back. For example, City never look to hit him quick and try and get turned in behind. City will always pick the ball up and start dinking it again and build it up slowly. Yeah. And that's one of Haaland's main strengths that he had at Borussia Dortmund was that because he's fast as hell, and he's powerful, is getting him through and behind. And you don't really see any of those types of goals for City. And then when you talk about tap-ins, that's the last couple of weeks he's had a couple of chances. Like yesterday, he had one where he just he skied his foot over the top and just completely missed the ball. It went underneath him. I'm not saying he would have scored it, but anyway, he would have got a shot on target anyway. He just completely missed it. And then you look at the one the City missed a couple of weeks ago as well, and that's fine because he'll score one next week or he'll score a hat-trick some other week. All I'm saying is that if a team's very good defensively, you can keep Haaland quiet,
Yeah.
So, no. I think Keane's got a point as much as, and I don't think he was saying it to say he doesn't think Haaland's a good player. I think he's saying he's at what he does, he's phenomenal. He's an old putting the ball in the back of the net. He's phenomenal, which is the hardest thing to do.
He's the best example of an old school centre forward, and if he was playing in the 90s, he'd have been a monster in the 90s as well. But the game sort of moved on from that.
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about him like
he'd have been great if he was
goals
playing,
last season.
I know.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Where Haaland would be brilliant is like if you took him back to the 90s as playing as a front two, if he had somebody small up front playing with him that he could knock balls onto and so on and so forth, that that little man big man relationship, But I think
So just-
sometimes with City, he's isolated because he's up there and
Yeah.
everybody else is moving about, recycling the ball, and they just don't give it to him.
That's
very
sort of
often,
what he had
you know?
with that's what he had at Dortmund with Sancho. It was big
Yeah.
man, little man, and that's you know, the amount of times they combined for goals together was huge.
So what you're saying is City should buy Sancho.
Well, what I'm saying is United should have bought Haaland ages ago.
Yeah.
Because the
I
way
think
that we tried.
to be fair.
Well, no,
just
yeah,
said
we
no.
tried. So when Ollie was manager of Mulder, he phoned up the club and went, "This lad I've got is amazing," and this was when he was like 16 or something.
Yeah.
And then he ended up going to Salzburg and then Dortmund, and I think we tried him both times then as well, and it didn't come off.
I mean, I understand why he went to Dortmund because,
Yeah.
you know, it was better for his career at that point. So, but, you know. So, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll look at the league table. Kyle will bring up the league table for us at the moment. I just wanted to ask you guys, so right now, Liverpool must be favourites because they've got that point advantage. So I'm just going to ask you again, if anybody's changed their mind, who do you think is going to win the title this year? Dave, you can go first.
I don't know. I still think City.
You still think City?
Yeah, even though I'm not convinced by them
Even though
at all at the moment,
furthest
but it's
behind.
City, isn't it? They just always seem to just jammy it. Well, not jammy it. We deserve it usually, but
Yeah.
it just feels destined. It's sickening.
What about you, Ryan? Have you changed your mind at all? Or do you
I
still
mean,
think it'll be City?
I think Arsenal are the most convincing of the three teams, just in that everyone is doing their job the most at Arsenal.
Yeah,
I get that.
And I think
I agree with
Liverpool,
you there, but that doesn't mean they won it.
Liverpool are dragging their way through games and grinding out wins. And you
can only do that for so long.
You have to think at some point that's going to catch up with them. But then, you know, they haven't. No, they're still in the Europa League, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just, you know, at some point,
Liverpool's still in the Europa League.
Yeah. At some point, it's got to catch up with them. I don't think we will beat them at the weekend, but we might, and that could throw a spanner in the works. You know, I didn't think we'd beat them in the FA Cup the other week.
I guess
But we've got to play Arsenal as well, I suppose.
You know, I've got a funny feeling Liverpool are going to win it this year, and you know that I don't really like Liverpool, so I kind of don't like saying that, and I would probably choose either of the other two. I've just got a funny feeling that they just keep just one of those seasons where even when they don't play well, they come away with 3 points every week, week after week. And you watch some games and think, this team's got a chance against them, and at the end,
they've been like that since Christmas. There's been very few games where Liverpool have gone on
really
and
dominated
and really convincingly won a game.
I mean,
you have to think that's going to catch up with them at some point. And
that maybe is the panic, all three of them being in it, and the nerves and the anxiety is that none of them are really like, you know, we'll just play away here. I mean, that might come into City's favour because they've done it before, but I think, you know, they don't have the same team as they had last year. They lost a couple of good players in the summer, City, and I think they've missed them, you know, and especially Gundogan.
Yeah.
So. I still think Spurs and Villa, they're in their own wee mini league to see which one comes fourth and which one comes fifth for me. I just don't think anybody's going to catch them, or that either of the two of them are capable of catching the three in front of them. So
No.
And then we've got the next week in a batch, which I'd said is probably yourselves, probably down to Brighton. From there, so Newcastle, Brighton, West Ham and Man United, and it's like the four of those teams really competing for who's going to get the last Europa or who's going to get the last Conference League, depending on who wins the FA Cup, assuming whoever wins the FA Cup's one of the top teams anyway. And then, you know, I guess your team, Chelsea, kind of falls in behind that. I mean, is it possible you guys could still get Europe, do you think? Or is that just like...
we've got a game in hand, but we're just so bad at the moment, honestly.
We should talk about your game, though, because you showed us something earlier on, and I think every one of us agreed that your team scored a goal which was ruled out for handball, but every one of us that watched the replay said that it should have been a penalty because the reason that he couldn't get his head to it was because
he was being held back by the defender,
dragging him back the whole way. I just don't understand how they couldn't give a penalty for that.
Yeah, because it was looked at by VAR, and the only thing they came to the conclusion was that it hit his hand. That fact he was being fouled, and of course, being fouled in the way he was it's a red card, so he would have been sent off. But then the penalty we did get was kind of soft, even though you see a foul like that anywhere else on the pitch, it's a foul. But I think the yellow was soft for the second yellow to have him sent off. I don't think that should have been a yellow. But,
no, I think the sending off was harsh, for me. But I mean, they did well considering they were down to 10 men for so long against such a big team, and
that's why it's depressing.
The first equaliser that they scored just after half time was an absolute banger.
We only concede bangers our mistakes.
You can't legislate for that. It was a cracker.
It was a good finish.
The second one, not so much. But
it's a first mistake Petrovic has made, in fairness, so I'll let him off. He's been great otherwise. But,
and I guess the relegation fight is all going to be depending on what happens with the appeals and everything like that. But to me,
at one point,
I just don't see you getting it yet.
At one point, I sent a screenshot of the table because it was really interesting because Sheffield United were ahead, Luton were ahead. I think Forest were ahead, and it just all sort of bunched up a little bit. And then they all dropped points in the end to varying degrees.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I just feel like Forest and Everton will be fine. When you look at their run-ins as well, like I shared that graphic with you showing like who's supposed to have the easiest and hardest run-ins. Newcastle's is supposed to be the easiest, but that's kind of irrelevant more for the teams round about them. But in the relegation fight, it's like Everton and Forest are like way higher up in the easier scale, and Luton's are way down at the bottom in terms of ones of the high. I just can't see them getting it, even if they deducted more points with Forest and Everton at this point, to be honest. So, do we all just think it's going to be a Luton, Burnley and Sheffield going down at the end?
Think probably,
I don't know. I mean, Forest...
Forest aren't good.
I think Sheffield United down.
The issue is Forest aren't playing well, but they are getting the odd draw and the odd result. Whereas Luton do play well, but they fall off at the end of the game. I think they just haven't got.
It could be one of the lowest ever totals this year that somebody has for staying up. It could be like 30 points keeps you up this year. It could be amazing, which is really quite remarkable when you think about it. But I guess we'll find out as that goes on. Anyway, we're doing the predictions a little bit different this week. We've already took images of our whiteboards and we sent them to Kel. So Kel is going to bring up all our fixtures on screen, and it is a double fixture list. So there's games starting tomorrow night, all through midweek, and then starting again on Saturday. So by the time we come round to record again, every team in the Premier League will have played 2 more games. In terms of the kind of games coming up, is there anything specific that kind of stands out to you guys as ones that you're looking forward to more than
United Chelsea on Thursday is
United Chelsea.
I think
not if we play like we did against you last time.
Well, and equally if we play like we did on, I think it's a game that either team could win. Definitely.
It should be, but whether it will be, I don't know. I was convinced last time we were going to beat you. And you absolutely
I went for a draw.
Dominated us.
I just fancy a draw because I think Man United they won't go. Let's just not turn up this week like they sometimes do against a small team. They won't do that against Chelsea.
No, they won't.
And Chelsea won't do that against Man United. So it might be.
And granted, obviously it was sort of slightly different. But last season, the back end of last season, we played Chelsea, and the wheels had properly come off Chelsea by that point. But our season had sort of fizzled out as well, and we just battered them. And
we just struggle against you now.
I think
how bad you are, we always struggle.
It's going to be an open game, and open games suit us better.
Yeah, open games do not suit us at all. Yeah. Well, he did at the beginning of the season, but I feel like we're leaking so many goals lately that I feel like we can get out easily.
Chelsea sit back and try and hit you in the break, which Man United will want to do.
Yes, exactly.
So
it is written in the stars for Mason Mount to score at the Bridge, isn't it?
I mean, it kind of is. Like 95th minute after play rubbish.
Do we have any Man United players?
Chelsea have hit the post 3 times.
United can't sell.
No, we don't. We don't do that here.
Yeah, they're not allowed to sell any players. Another big game for the first of the midweek ones is City versus Villa, which could at the end of the day, Villa beat them at Villa Park. I know it's exciting.
They were a lot better then.
City,
but
Villa
were
everybody else away.
I don't know. Villa were fairly comfortable against Wolves at the weekend. Diaby's goal.
Trent Wolves have been. They can be tricky to play against as well.
But Diaby's goal, the first goal, was absolutely glorious. It was a set piece routine, but it was a set piece routine with an absolute thunder cunt at the end of it, which is always nice.
I don't know. I don't see Villa beating City, but you never know. They've proved that they can play against them, so that could be a one for the title. There's a couple of relegation fight games as well because Everton played Burnley, Forest are playing. Who are they playing?
Forest are playing Spurs.
Forest are playing Fulham, but they're playing,
in the first game
playing someone else as well. Can't remember.
They're playing Luton?
Oh, they're playing Spurs, yeah. Luton, who have they got? Arsenal and
Bournemouth.
Tough games to pick up any points in those ones. But yeah, I guess that's the kind of biggest games of the weekend. We will get the Newcastle Everton ones on the telly tomorrow night, so we can all watch that. And everybody
I'm going to see June.
Can cheer on Newcastle. You're going out, are you, Dave?
I'm going to see June. Yeah.
June.
Finally,
June
it's been out for like 3 weeks.
Oh, June. I thought you meant like the month June or some old lady at the end of the street called June.
No.
Well, I was just saying,
it's
movie related, but I went to see Ghostbusters at the weekend. Don't, if you like.
I've heard from a lot of people it's bad.
It was so boring. It was like some AI wrote the script. That's what it felt like to me. Anyway.
I'm going round to a mate's house tomorrow instead to watch Portsmouth versus Derby.
I will be watching the Newcastle and updating you all on
Portsmouth versus
unless
Derby
we're getting beat, in which case I will take my top off, whatever top it is at the time. I've got the stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, just a word for Portsmouth versus Derby, because Portsmouth are 5 points clear of Derby at the top of the table with a game in hand.
And
they're playing Derby tomorrow.
Kind of clash.
So it's it's not
League
going to League One, yeah. It's not going to seal the title, but if they win, it's basically there, which is good because they've been down there for a little while and sort of. I'm not going to it now. We're watching it around the mate's house.
Going to be watching on TV.
Yeah, there's no tickets to get there. To be
football
honest,
friend. You got a football friend, Ryan? Portsmouth friend.
And actually, do you know what? The main road into Portsmouth has been like intermittently closed on and off for the last 2 months because they keep having to repair the sewer under it. So I wouldn't want to try and get down into the game anyway.
It really is a shithole, Portsmouth.
It really is, yeah.
Oh well. I don't think I've ever been, but there you go. We shall be back next week.
I don't mind it.
You should all come down for the first ever Watch More Football live show at some point.
Watch More Football live show. We'll fly Kyle over with all the money that we've made on this channel.
And it'll be the worst game he's ever seen since Arsenal versus City.
But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Please give us a like and subscribe if you can, or let us know what you do or don't like about the show, what you'd like to see us do more of. We have got a couple of ideas that we're percolating to kind of bring in future weeks that we're going to be doing. Also, remember, we're looking for a bit of an audience interaction this week. We are looking for you guys to let us know how many points Mick should be deducted for not turning up this week. He earned, and
there won't be any appeals, by the way.
Should he lose?
No
appeals.
No,
so basically, the first person to put a comment in that's not too excessive, we'll accept. Somebody could say, "I beat you in pints." I'm not.
No, first person to comment decides the score, and that says final. Yeah.
There you go.
Even worse, Rich.
There you go then. But it can't be any of yous, just in case like Ryan goes in and says, "Take away 50 points for Mick," and then
I'd still be behind him.
You'd probably still be behind him, but I mean, anyway, thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you back next week. As always, cheers.
Yeah.